You unlock so much more for yourself just by mastering this one skill. And that skill is doing hard things when you don't feel like doing them, which, let's be honest, is probably a lot of the time because, as I said, they're hard. We don't particularly love doing hard things. And even if you do, even if the hard thing is something that you really love, there's going to be days that you don't feel like doing it. There's going to be days that you don't feel your best. And having the skill, having the ability to show up and do those things anyways, even when you're feeling that way, even when the thing's really hard, is going to propel you so far and is going to translate into so many areas of your life. So today I'm going to be diving into 3 strategies I want you to use the next time you're faced with something really hard that you just don't want to do, okay? We're going to tackle this together. Let's get into this. Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Today we're talking about doing hard things when you don't particularly feel like doing them. And there is nothing I love more as it relates to giving you guys content for this podcast than talking about things that I am actively in the thick of dealing with, because I think it gives me the chance to just give you much more authentic and much more useful advice, because it's advice that not only I think works, but I'm also currently putting it into practice, and I'm also seeing exactly how that feels, and I can more closely relate to what I'm talking about for you guys. And so today we're talking about not wanting to do hard things. And so I am going to talk about 3 strategies to make this a lot easier, and 3 strategies that I actually put into place earlier this afternoon. And so for my situation in particular, today it was just for going and doing my workout at the gym, which some of you listening to that might be like, hey, Emily, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that's not that hard. That's not a big deal. I do much harder things. Okay, fair enough. Point heard. But for other people, that's a really hard thing to do. And sometimes for me, that's a really hard thing to do. And so I have some strategies that I use kind of on a regular basis, ones that I put into practice today, in order to push me to do that when I don't feel like doing it. And so I was thinking about it as I was leaving the gym, because these strategies are ones that I've used on multiple occasions when I haven't felt like going to the gym and doing my workout, because, I mean, let's just be real, that's a pretty common occurrence. I don't think anybody who works out regularly feels like going on a regular basis. It is kind of something that you have to push yourself to do. But I think sometimes we don't talk about how. I think there's a lot of like, oh, you have to be disciplined and do the hard thing anyways, but how? How do you actually do that? So I'm going to dive into how, because this expands a lot further than just going and working out in the gym. These are strategies you can use for any hard thing that you are not wanting to do. So the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to shorten your time horizon. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So if there is something hard that you have to do, I want you to start breaking it up into much smaller chunks than what it actually is. Let's say, for example, you have like a really big project for work that you're working on, or that you have to work on, and you're really not wanting to tackle it. You're really not wanting to do it. You've kind of just been dragging your feet and dreading it. I don't want you to focus on the whole project. I want you to just focus on writing 2 sentences, or looking up one website and doing research on one thing related to that project. And that's your only task for right now. This is all I want you to focus on. And so when you are trying to kind of summon the mental energy to do the thing, don't try to convince yourself to do the project. Don't try to hype yourself up to do the project. Just say, okay, I can get it together enough to research one thing. Or, you got this. All you got to do is write 2 sentences. I can pull it together and do this. And so this is something I put into practice today. And I do this often when I'm in the gym and I'm not wanting to do my workouts. And I have this little pep talk with myself, and all honesty, I had this pep talk with myself before literally every set of my workout today. So I think it was like 17 or 18 times I had this little pep talk with myself, because I was really not feeling it. I was really not wanting to do it. And so the mental energy, the thing I was trying to get myself hyped up to do, was not the entire workout. It was literally just, okay, Emily, you can get it together to do one set. All you have to do is just pull it together for 1 minute. You can do that. That's not that bad. And so all I focused on was the one set in front of me. And I would keep repeating this to myself. So as I'm looking at the timer that I have for my rest periods and I see it getting a little bit closer to 0 and it's like, I gotta pick the weights back up and I gotta do the set again and I really don't want to do it. I'm really tired. I want to just wipe down the machine and leave. It's like, nope. All you gotta do is pull it together for 1 minute and that's it. And then you can just go back to the way that you currently are. And that doesn't feel so hard. That feels like a much lower barrier to entry. And so you summon up your energy, you pull it together, and you just give it your all for 1 minute, and then you can go back to normal. And you can apply this to anything. So whatever it is you're trying to work on, shorten it down into much smaller chunks than the entire project itself, and just hype yourself up to do that. Just shorten the time horizon of what it is that you're trying to do. Say to yourself, you know what, I can pull it together for 1 minute, or I can pull it together for 5 minutes, or I can pull it together enough to read 1 page, or type 2 sentences, or send 1 email. Just break it down into really small, really manageable chunks, and then hype yourself up to do that. Because it feels a lot easier to hype yourself up to do a really small part of a task instead of the entire thing. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to be willing to accept good enough. We're not going for perfection here, okay? When you are having days that you're really just not feeling it and the barrier to entry feels a lot higher than normal, these are not strive for perfection kind of days, okay? The goal here is just to do the thing good enough. And I want you to be willing to accept that. And so again, as I was pulling up to the gym today and I was kind of having all these feelings of like, oh, I don't want to go in, I don't want to do this, I want to just turn around and go home, I would rather just, curl up and lay in bed all day kind of feelings. I kind of had this talk with myself of, okay, you know what? You're here. That's what matters. If you go in there and your lifts are not as good as they usually are, if you don't move the amount of weight that you usually do, that's fucking fine. That's fucking totally fine. The point here is not for you to go in and PR all your lifts and have the best workout of your life. The goal here is for you to just go in and do the damn thing. It doesn't matter how it looks. It doesn't matter if it's messy. It doesn't matter if it sucks. The only point is that you do it. And again, lowers the bar to entry, lowers the barrier, lowers the friction. It makes it feel a lot easier for you to go in there and do it because it takes a lot of pressure off of you for having to show up in any sort of way. And it's almost like you give yourself permission to be proud of yourself, even if it doesn't look great, right? So if I go into it with that mindset of like, the only goal right now is for me to show up and do it, even if it doesn't look perfect, literally no matter what I do in there, I still get to feel proud of myself afterwards because I showed up and I did the thing. Even if it wasn't perfect, even if it wasn't like the best workout I've ever had, I still get to feel good about myself because I did it. I did the bare minimum thing that I said I needed to do. So don't force yourself to deliver perfection on those days. Don't aim for perfection. Don't make that the priority, okay? Good enough is the goal for today. Be willing to accept that. If your goal today was to like deep clean your entire house and you're really not feeling it, pick a good enough goal. Maybe it looks like you putting 1 load of dishes in the dishwasher. Maybe it looks like you running the vacuum around your living room. Even if you don't pick up everything, even if there's still, some spots of dust on the floor, you still did it. You still did the bare minimum of the job and it's done good enough. And that's okay. We're not aiming for perfection. The last thing that I want you to do, and this is something I use quite a bit, not just with the gym, but with a lot of things in my life, is I want you to think about your future self. And so what I mean by this is if you are about to go and do something really hard, or you are trying to work yourself up to go and do something really hard, I want you to think about the version of you that is going to exist after this thing is done. And so in my example of going to the gym, I like to start thinking about, okay, how is the version of me going to feel walking out of that gym afterwards? How am I going to feel knowing that I showed up, I didn't want to do the thing, but I did the hard thing anyways? What kind of feelings is that going to bring up for me? And I start to try and really picture and visualize what that version of me is going to feel like. I'm going to feel really proud. I'm going to feel really accomplished. chances are I'll probably just be in a better headspace. I'll feel better physically because I went and moved my body. Like really trying to piece together what that person is going to feel like. And it starts to create this kind of connection in your brain of, I go and do this hard thing, and then this future version of me gets to feel all these positive feelings, and it becomes like this little reward that you know you're going to get if you go and do the hard thing. And something else I like to do is I like to kind of think of the flip side of this and think about how the future version of me will feel if I've done the thing, and then compare that to how the future version of me will feel if I don't do the thing. So again, back to my example. If I decide to just skip my workout altogether and I turn around and I just drive home, how is the future version of me going to feel knowing that I did that? Probably not very good, right? I'm probably going to feel pretty disappointed in myself because I didn't show up and I didn't do the thing. Physically, I'm not going to feel as good because I didn't get any sort of exercise for the day. I'm going to feel some feelings of shame and guilt. Like there's a lot of negativity that'll come up if I don't go and do this hard thing. And so not only have you created this kind of reward connection by imagining the future version of you that did the thing, but you also create this connection of you going and doing this thing is now a way for you to avoid future pain. And something I find that often happens when I do this practice is imagining the future version of myself who hasn't done the thing feels worse than me actually just going and doing the thing. So again, imagining the version of me who skipped my workout and just drove home, that would feel worse. The pain and mental agony of that would feel worse than me just going in and doing my workout. And so suddenly the barrier to entry, again, feels a lot lower. And this was something I put into practice in another situation in my life recently, and again, found it really useful. I had to have a really difficult conversation with someone recently, and I was crazy nervous about it. I was really anxious about saying the wrong thing and, potentially hurting their feelings. And there was a lot of thoughts going into it of just like, oh my God, this is too hard. I don't want to do this. Maybe just eat how you feel and don't have this conversation. Save yourself the stress. And so again, I started to think, okay, what is the version of me tomorrow going to feel like? If I go and I have this difficult conversation and I say the things that I need to say, and B, what is the future version of myself going to feel like tomorrow if I don't have this conversation and I keep my mouth shut and I just never share how I feel because it feels too difficult to do it. And again, imagining the version of myself the following day who didn't go through with it and is now kind of still stuck with this internal turmoil of knowing that I had something to say and I didn't, felt worse. Imagining that reality felt worse than me actually just going and doing the hard thing of having that conversation. And although it doesn't eliminate the anxiety, it doesn't make the hard thing suddenly not hard, it does make it feel more approachable because it is the lesser of two evils, really. It is the thing that in the end will be less hard and will be less difficult for you to face than the version of you that never did it in the first place. So that's what I've got for you today. The next time that you have to do something hard and you don't feel like doing it, whether it's because it is just something really fucking hard, or maybe it's something that, you don't typically struggle with, but you're just having a really bleh kind of day, I want you to put these into practice. So shorten your time horizon, be willing to accept good enough, and then imagine the future version of you. The version of you that did the thing and the version of you that didn't, and really flesh out how those versions of you are going to feel. And then use that to help shift your perspective on how you approach the thing you're about to do. Okay? Also, sidebar, I was going through my posting schedule after I recorded this episode, and I realized that this particular episode is coming out on Christmas Day. So for all of you listening who celebrate, Merry Christmas. I hope you have an amazing day. Hopefully you don't have to do anything too hard today. Just fucking enjoy your day. I love you. All right, I'll see you next week. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you like the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support helps this show reach even more incredible people just like you. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.